We're back here on Yaffee Live. I am Tennessee's voice of reason, Chattanooga's conservative conscience. Glad you've joined us today on the show. And if you miss any of the show live, well, you know where to catch the podcast, anywhere podcasts are available, and find out more information on my social media. So you can like the Yaffee Facebook page, follow me on X at Yaffee, Instagram at Yaffee Live, or Talk Radio 102.3 on Facebook, X, or Instagram as well. So it's Thursday. That means we speak with someone from the Tennessee Conservative, talk about their latest news at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Joining me on the show right now is Olivia Lupia, who is a reporter for the Tennessee Conservative. Olivia, how are you today?
Doing great. How about you?
Doing good. I mean, I'm kind of sick of the cold already. I mean...
well, we're staying nice and cool. I'll give you that.
No, not nice and cool. Too cold. It's just, ugh. Anyway, let's talk about more important things, I guess. You got a story here. New Tennessee bill would require counties to check voter rolls for illegal aliens. Talk about this.
Yes. So illegal immigration is going to play a big part in this year's legislative session. We've already seen quite a few bills pass through, and then Speaker Cameron Sexton announced that they've been working with the Trump administration to create a slate of anti-immigration bills. So definitely a key feature of this year's legislative action, which for those of us who've been begging for this for years is fabulous. This bill in particular basically would require accountability at a local level. So it would ensure that county elected, those overseeing county elections have to actually check the SAVE database, which is an online service for government agencies to verify immigration status and citizenship applications for anyone who's seeking a benefit or a license, that kind of a thing. So the coordinator of elections here in Tennessee is not required to check those databases. They can, but this just kind of cuts out the middleman and goes straight to the county level that says they have to check against this database before registering these people to vote. It would also require these county elected officials or overseeing the elections to do a quarterly check against the database. So if somehow somebody snuck through or did that, then they can initiate the proceedings to pull them off. So I think it's a great idea. It definitely cuts down to the local level, which is super important. We can have a lot of changes happen at the state level, but if they don't trickle down to the local level, it kind of is pointless, because then who's enforcing it and who is actually having any accountability? So this is a good one, I think. Hopefully we'll see this push through.
All right. Yeah, you're right. It does seem like they're really addressing the issue of immigration this year. I guess it's because of the pressure from Trump. Trump as president puts pressure on the party to actually address this.
I would agree, definitely. It's a little bit convenient that our legislature, who is touting themselves as the conservative leader for the nation, waited until there was definitely support and preemptive action on the Trump administration's behalf. But ultimately, if it gets done, that's what I'm concerned about. So it's a good thing. I just wish it had come earlier when the people had asked for it. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm speaking with Olivia Lupia with the Tennessee Conservative, and we got a number of stories on this issue, actually. You have another one here where a bill has been introduced to require more citizenship checks for Tennessee state benefits applicants.
Yes. So this is one of those ones that I was kind of shocked to see that this isn't already in the law. I'm not sure how the default is not to let illegal immigrants get state benefits, but I guess better late than never. So this literally would just make sure that anyone who's over 18 years of age, who's applying for federal, state, or local public benefits has to check citizenship. And that includes any local government agencies, like boards of health, and anyone who can give out a state benefit would have to check citizenship for these people. So like I said, it's one of those things that I think is great, but I just can't believe that this isn't already in the law. So I think this should be hopefully an easy one to get passed through, because it's very common sense. But I will preface that with saying we all know how common sense works these days.
It's not common. It's just sense. Exactly. Common sense isn't common. I get it. Yeah, but I'm looking at the story. It says, state and local entities would be required to submit monthly reports to the General Assembly, Department of Finance, and State Centralized Immigration Enforcement Division, detailing the number of and information about individuals who applied for public benefit who are determined not to be a U.S. citizen or qualified alien, and the number of individuals for whom benefits were terminated if it was determined they were not a U.S. citizen or qualified alien. The entities would also be required to separately report to the State Immigration Enforcement Division any illegal immigrants or non-qualified aliens who do not receive benefits. So it looks like what this is, it's a step above what they did in order to enforce immigration law, to help enforce immigration law.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the perfect way to encapsulate it. Again, it kind of adds, it's like one step below teeth, I would say. Now, the Attorney General, fortunately in this, would be given the authority to investigate violations, both into citizens who are trying to, or not citizens, illegals, trying to defraud the system, and to any, local entities or government entities who have been discovered to give those benefits fraudulently. So there is some enforcement mechanisms here and accountability, and I like both of those things a lot, especially when they go hand in hand. So that's huge. We have way too many bills, unfortunately, that come through that just lack any mechanisms to actually enforce what sounds like a good provision on paper. So that's a huge positive with this bill, definitely.
Okay. Now, I see you got another story here kind of related to this issue. I had talked about this, mentioned it earlier this week, because it seems like the whole point of this is to spread fear. But it says Tennessee schools discuss plans for potential interactions with immigration enforcement, which, as I understand, Homeland Security is not targeting schools or even students. Yet Metro Nashville Public Schools, they have an entire page on its website dedicated to the district's plan for interactions with immigration officials. Why are they doing this?
I think this is an example of gaslighting at its finest, I have to say. It's pretty wild because when you look at a lot of the school districts across the state who are talking about this, a lot of parents are saying, like, what's your plan? What's your plan? What are you going to do? All of them are saying the same thing, which is, well, we follow the law and follow the policy that we have in place for any other law enforcement officer that comes onto school property. So they have to be directed to the principal and the school's legal department. They have to have proper legal verification and all that kind of stuff. So there's already policies in place for this well before this has happened. On top of that, and more importantly, exactly like you said, ICE is not doing anything with schools. They're not targeting schools. They haven't even conducted a single operation or arrest on school property, at least in Tennessee. So this is a lot of, I think the schools are just trying to virtue signal here and also, just gaslight everyone, because the more fear that they can stir up, obviously the more resistance they have, and then they get to look like the heroes for protecting all these poor innocent children. Especially when you've got some schools and parents and even educators in Nashville who, in response to increased ICE presence in their areas, have started forming like their own watch groups and patrol groups, and they're calling non-American families and like warning them that ICE is in the vicinity, all sorts of wackadoodle stuff. So it's crazy to me how how the narrative is just being so spun out of control for something that's not an issue. All of these directors of schools told everybody straight up, this has never been an issue and we don't anticipate it to be an issue. But we're going to go ahead and, pretend that we have some big important policy in place and then direct you to the organizations that advocate for illegal aliens and siphon money and do all that sorts of stuff. So
okay.
It's all, exactly. When we follow the money, we get down to the real root of the issue, I think.
Well, follow the money, but also it's out of Nashville. And we already know the mayor of Nashville has been pretty big on being the anti-ICE mayor.
Oh, yeah.
He says it's not a sanctuary city, but he walks up to that line, so to speak. So I guess it shouldn't be too surprising considering the source here. Yeah. We've talked a lot about him on this show. So moving on to some other topics here that are pretty important. You have a story where Tennessee legislation would increase civil liabilities for abortion pill distributors. Talk about that.
Yes, this is a big one, and I think unfortunately a lot of people aren't aware how big of a problem the abortion pill industry is in the state. So Tennessee already has laws on the books that say obviously you can't get a clinical abortion here, with very limited exceptions, which are constantly being threatened and undermined anyway, but that's a different fight. But also that prohibits abortion pills being mailed in and out of the state. But the problem is you've got these blue states who have what are called shield laws that protect providers, organizations, practices who mail these abortion pills from out of state or even overseas. There's a huge black market for abortion pills which is very detrimental, obviously, for the baby, most importantly, that we have all these innocent babies being killed, but also have huge risks for the mothers who take them. So in an effort to combat that, Gino Bolso has introduced this bill, which would change the legal standing for who can file a wrongful death claim. So it would add a provision that says the mother of a child who is killed via an abortion pill and other relatives can create a wrongful death suit against these abortion pill providers. So they can get up to I think $5 million in damages and recompense. So enforcement of it, I think, will be tricky itself, but the idea is to put a big legal deterrent in place, because why would a manufacturer, right, or a distributor of this pill send a product to a woman who can take their product, murder their own child, and then turn around and sue them? So it's the idea is to set up a legal deterrent, and a strong one at that, that hopefully will keep some of these pills out of Tennessee, because the pill is absolutely the biggest abortion resource right now. Over 60% of abortions nationwide are performed via the pill right now. And that number is actually increasing in Tennessee consistently because it's so easy to get these pills in the mail. So it's definitely something we have to crack down on. I'm grateful for all the legislators who are looking at this issue and really trying to crack down on these things, because obviously murdering unborn children is never okay under any circumstances.
Yeah, you're right. The pill, because we had a victory when it came to overturning Roe v. Wade and abolishing abortion in Tennessee, they're getting it through the pill. And that's really unfortunate. And like you said, it's just too easy to get, even though it's technically illegal in this state, it's still very easy to get. So it's nice to know there is a way to fight back against that. The final story I want to talk to you about from your site, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Yeah, there's a bill that would exempt fresh fruit and veggies from sales tax, which I know a lot of other states already have this. Really, they just get rid of grocery taxes completely. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think getting rid of any tax is a good thing at this point. We pay way too much in taxes on everything, period. But this one's interesting, and there is another bill that has also been filed that would actually eliminate the grocery tax on most things. Very few exceptions, like tobacco, diapers, candy, that kind of stuff. But the legislature just won't pass it for some reason, like a full ban or a full exemption. So this might be kind of a great middle ground to at least start that conversation and move things forward. It'll be interesting to see if both of those sponsors keep their bills as they are, just in case one fails, they can still try with the other one, or if one of them will withdraw and say, hey, well, kind of off collectively get behind one or the other. But either way, I think you're looking at a good thing, especially for fresh foods. You always want to encourage people to eat more fresh foods than processed foods, especially with what we're seeing come out of the MAHA movement and just all the research and all that stuff that shows we need to be eating better. There's a great bill that's coming down the pipe that would establish a task force to oversee ultra-processed foods or examine ultra-processed foods and other chemicals and additives in school lunch programs. So there's a huge push towards getting people to eat real, healthy, whole foods. And if we can incentivize that through cutting taxes on those, even better. So I don't see anything wrong with this. The Democrats aren't happy because they want to replace the revenue, and they think that doing that should come through, taxing corporations and doing other stuff, which kind of defeats the purpose. But overall, I think there's bipartisan support for the idea of this. It'll just be the implementation of how that actually progresses through the legislature. So it'll be an interesting one to watch, no doubt.
Olivia Lupia, she is a reporter for the Tennessee Conservative. You can read her stuff at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. The podcast and the video of this interview will show up tomorrow on the website, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Appreciate it, Olivia. We'll talk to you again next time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.